All righty, you guys. Welcome. Super excited for you all to be here with me today. Y'all, I am very, very excited about the topic that we're going to be talking about today and the young lady that I'm going to be bringing on. Somebody else, a fellow boss babe that I have gotten connected with online. We're actually in the same city. So we have met before. And y'all, let me just tell you this, she is me, I am her. I feel like we are the same. And so we have gotten connected, and I definitely wanted to bring her on here because I think she's doing some absolutely phenomenal things. And so Miss Asia, are you there?
I am.
Yeah. Hey girl.
Hey.
All right, awesome. Well, I gave you
Mm.
like a little brief intro, but why don't you go ahead, tell us, who is Asia, what do you do, so we can get to know you.
All right. Hey, everyone. My name is Asia Mapp. I'm the owner of Excel Choice Education, Discover, Develop, Achieve, and I am a reading tutor. I've been tutoring for a long time, since I was high school, and probably about last year, actually, I decided to take it a step forward and open up a business. The combination of me being in the classroom for about 6 years or so, and just my knowledge on just reading and the importance of reading, I decided to cater my business in those avenues to struggling readers. My ultimate goal, essentially, I teach students the skills and how to master reading, the tools that are needed in order to read and to comprehend. So
I
that
love it.
is me.
Because, girl, I mean, the English language is definitely hard. I mean, honestly,
No, it is. It is.
I'm good with reading, and I'm good in reading and writing. But my thing is like, I have the actual names of things. Like, I don't remember the names, conjunction, junction. I don't remember any of that. So I'm like, all
Right.
praise to the educators. Now, by profession, you are a teacher, right?
So I stopped because just with the pandemic, it's a lot of politics, a lot of
Okay.
the there's a lot is going on, and I really wanted to focus on growing the business, honestly, truthfully.
Okay.
So I
I
just
love it.
stepped away from it for a moment, and I just wanted to focus on growing my business.
I
So.
love it. Well, there's a life update there because we got connected. We had a big long conversation a couple of months ago, and so in the midst of all of that, I see you have made some changes. So congrats to you. On growing your business. I love it. Okay, so then we're going to dive right in to that. Now, I just want to start. Are you taking new clients in regards to tutoring?
Of course, I am taking new clients. I did a lot of the one-on-ones, but I'm only keeping those slots open for 2 or 3 people. But I am accepting online tutoring clients from all over the United States. So I'm not only just accepting clients in Sacramento. If you're in Texas, if you're in DC, I'm willing to accept you. I'm moving from one-on-one to 100% online tutoring, small groups. And the reason why I believe small group tutoring is important is because any successful person that you know of has a team around them to help them be that person. Michael Jordan, Oprah, yes, they have natural talents, but they always have a team. Anyone that you can think of, they have a team supporting them along the way, whether that's a nutritionist, a coach, whatever they need to make them be the person. And that's how I want parents to view their children, right? Their struggling son or daughter that is struggling reading. Your child needs a team around them. And so the difference between your child or son or daughter being in the classroom is that the teacher doesn't have any control of who's in their classroom, right? You have the class clown, you have maybe the bully, just all these mix of different types of students, right? Whereas in group tutoring, okay, the person, such as myself, I have more control over the type of students that I want to welcome in this space, in the group tutoring, because it's so important to the environment or the students that are struggling readers in their learning.
I love that. And we talk about teams, we talk about networking, we talk about collaborating in the adult aspect. Never
Mm,
did it even occur to my mind, like, okay, where,
right.
like, these kids need to be doing the same thing. Wow, I love that so, so much. And with the group tutoring aspect, and where, they get to be amongst their peers and create that team. Wow, I really like that. And I ain't got no kids, but
Definitely.
I really love that. Now, you were a teacher when the pandemic did start, and so this has been, obviously undocumented territory for all of us.
Oh yeah.
What were a few of like the hardest things from a teacher standpoint when this first came about, like early March, like when you were first in the
Mhm.
trenches with this?
It was a lot of concerns with those who were used to the face-to-face interaction,
Mhm.
right? Because we know we have those students, and even some parents watching this right now, you're probably saying, my son needs this face-to-face environment, right? And even in some of the older students, right? Some students, they either skip or don't come. And so now you're taking this away, and it's like, well, what are they doing now?
Yeah,
And so really the struggle from I'm seeing with a lot of teachers, that you just have some that they're not showing up at all. Um, and others are handling it very well. Some people like it. A lot of the students have actually transitioned pretty well within it. They prefer online learning. You have some that really miss it. I miss being around their friends, the interaction. And honestly, students, young adults, they're not fully developed yet. We need that interaction. We are made for face-to-face
absolutely.
interaction, whether you want to deal with, your employer or whatnot. That's what we're made for. So I can't imagine, students, it's really frustrating. You
Yeah.
know, um, I saw a few of the cases like on the news. Well, I'm sorry, news article that I've read, student communities committing suicide and things of that nature. And it's just really tragic. I would like for things to go back to normal, but I think that's over with. I think this is
Yeah.
new, and this is what it's gonna be. So people like myself that are in tutoring, is definitely an opportunity for parents to get their child on board, to get them caught up, and
Mhm.
uh, just to keep them on track.
Absolutely. There's a Facebook status that I saw. It was a comment actually, and I feel like it will always be ingrained in my head. It was like, these kids really, like the young ones, I mean, they literally just went home one day and was like never able to talk to their friends again. And I'm like trying to imagine being, this is like, kids. I think her daughter was like in kindergarten, very young. And so it's like, you're that young and you're not even really fully able to comprehend what's going
Mhm.
on, and then you have just gotten plucked out of your normal everyday routine. And I'm like, dang, I can't even imagine, how hard that is, especially where I'm like, dang, when I was that age, my mom didn't have everybody's number of like who I
Mhm.
was on the playground with. So it's like, how
Mhm.
can you even find your friend again? So I'm just like, my
Right.
heart goes out to the kiddies. I'm like, it's a tough time. I'm like, it's a
Mhm.
tough time for us adults. So I know for sure it's a tough time, for them. One
Yes.
thing that I did want to go into is I remember in our conversation, originally when we had first connected, we were talking about how distance learning kind of exposed parenting. It
Mhm.
exposed parents and almost like their lack of parenting, because it was just like mayhem and chaos when now the parent had to be the teacher. And
Right.
so what are some tips that you can give parents who are still distance learning? Because I know every city state is different. So like I
Mhm.
know some people are in school, and some people are still doing the on are doing online now fully. So what are some tips that you can just give to parents who now went from working to now having to be teacher, mother,
Mhm.
maid, cook, like all of these different things?
Right. Before I get into that, I wanted to clarify just briefly what we were talking about when we first met, the exposure, dynamic, and what we were talking about, what we meant by the parenting aspect. So what I meant by that was, um, parents, you're used to Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, for example, getting your kids ready, dropping them off, you're going to work. You pick them up, go straight home, or they might have the after school program. Then they pick up, or you got grandma or someone picking up your son or daughter, bringing them home, same routine or so Monday through Friday, right? Then boom, it shakes the whole dynamic structure. You've either been laid off, right? You're no longer working, or you
Right.
still have to work, but now you're literally everything. Now you're wearing these multiple hats, right? Whereas as teachers in the classroom, right? We've had your child in the classroom Monday through Friday for about, give or take, between 7, 8, 9 hours, through the day, from 8 a.m. to what, 2, 3 something, PM
Right.
essentially. And parents are realizing, okay, wait a minute, I don't know as much as I thought I knew in terms of math, for example, or this common core,
Yeah.
right, that has taken over education, or reading, or just certain subjects. They're realizing, okay, my son knows what he's talking about, or okay, maybe I don't know as much, right? So that's on one end. Your child also have to work. You have to pay bills. Someone has to make the money, depending on your living situation. But your child still has to be logged in on the computer, because that's school. And by law, your child has to go to school. So you're juggling just this more hats, right? You're used to, from your 9 to 5 being child free, because you're off, you're at work, you have your lunch break. After work, you might work out, then go pick him or her up from the after school program, or from your aunt's or your grandmother's house, right? That's a huge shift
Yeah.
for parents. And through that, right, and I'm just naming a few things, and I'm sure parents that are watching, yeah, you can attest to some things, like, yeah, I've realized a lot of things about myself, right? Kind of like what we were touching on, it's just a crazy year. 2020 is definitely in the books.
Girl,
uh,
in the book for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's a crazy dynamic for every person in each situation. So it's like
right.
each perspective you can touch on. And so I think it's just, I mean, it's been hard obviously for
Mhm.
everybody, but then it's like
Yeah.
those, I feel like it's almost even harder for the parents, because it's like, okay,
Mhm.
now you're the provider, now you have to be the educator. And it's like everybody kind of, I didn't go to school to be a teacher. I mean, I can't even imagine like trying to
Mm.
teach math or reading to a kid. So I mean, no, my hats literally go off to educators and the parents right now at this time too. Now, for when it comes to tutoring and working with children, what do you think are the benefits of tutoring? Because
Mhm.
as we are, like I said, I don't have kids, so I really don't even know like how
Right.
these school years even go with this online learning thing.
Mhm.
But what I do know is that as more kids are still home, tutoring may be an option and may be something that parents want to look into. So um what do you think are the benefits of getting a tutor? Should everybody have a tutor? Like, do they need to be struggling to have a tutor? Touch on a few of those things for us.
Okay. Well, one, there's definitely a misconception in tutoring that if you're struggling, then you need a tutor. And if you're not struggling, you don't need a tutor. And that's not the case,
Right.
right? It's like, think of it as insurance,
Mhm.
right? Health insurance. You might be really healthy. You don't have health problems, but you have it. You make sure you get it, right?
Right.
And life insurance, okay? You're super young. You might not feel that, I'm not dying tomorrow, but you have it for just in case measures. And if you have a child that is successful, in academia across the board, go ahead and get them one.
Yeah.
Still, there's always room to be, improved. If they want to go, if you went, they're going to school, right? Those SATs, ACTs, they count. Now, as of recently, a lot of schools and colleges, they have knocked that off of their application. So
Really?
that means, yeah, so that
Wow.
that means, yeah, their personal statement is being strongly looked at now. The letter of recommendations, their personal statement is being strongly looked at. But it hasn't gone across the board yet, right? That some schools they're still requiring, the GRE or SATs, SATs, things like that. As far as the benefits of tutoring, well, if you're concerned that your child is being left behind through this online learning format, right? It is good. It's a great investment. Okay.
Yeah.
It takes the pressure off of you as the parent, because you want to be the best parent, mom, father, etc., provide your child what he or she needs. And if they're struggling in their academia, sometimes that can bring about, lack of confidence, low self-esteem for their child because they feel like they're the one in the class that doesn't know. And let's be honest, nobody wants to be called on and they don't know anything or never know, the right answer.
Right.
Right.
I love that.
So it definitely gives parents that peace of mind and that comfort that their child is being supported routinely. Okay.
I love that. It's almost like maintenance. I have a good friend of mine that I got connected with online. She's a therapist. So shout out to Dr. Vanessa Roberts. She was saying, I'm comparing this to like therapy, because therapy is like one of those misconceptions where you need a therapist like if you're like completely sliding downhill in the dumps and sad, when she said like anybody can have, a therapist and to be, maintain. And so when you kind of, that's the perspective that I'm thinking when you think of tutoring, because even I had the misconception like, oh, okay, well, I don't really need a tutor because I'm getting A's. So like, why would I need a tutor? But it's good to see like, okay, well, we want to maintain that learning and continue as they go into college, if that's the route, that they take or whatnot.
Right.
Now, okay.
Absolutely. Oh, specifically in reading, because
Mhm.
I did used to teach all subjects,
Okay.
well, math, reading, and writing, but I wanted to narrow down and focus on one subject.
Okay.
Reading in everything, even as adults, we read everything.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a day that goes by where we're not reading.
Right.
Okay. And looking from the child's eyes in their science classes, their history classes, what are they doing? They're reading,
Mm.
right? You're
Right.
reading everything. So if your child is a struggling reader, they may not be able to do the math problem because
Mm.
Common Core deals with a student's ability to analyze and really dissect and explain how they got the answer. So when it comes to these word problems, your child might be stuck because they have a hard time reading and understanding what the word problem is asking of them, right? And we can apply that to science, history, etc., being able to comprehend what is being read. A statistic, 2019, 34% of fourth graders struggle to read proficiently
Mm.
in California. And that's just in California.
Wow.
And looking at just fourth graders, right? So when you have a child in kindergarten up till third, fourth grade, those are really crucial years. From kindergarten, third grade or so, right? They're learning how to read. Okay. After that, it becomes they're learning to understand, right? They're reading to learn, right? So it's real crucial in anything, whatever you're teaching your child. It's so crucial getting that into them at that young age, whether they're watching you read, whether you're reading to them, because they just hold on to it just like a sponge. So after that, after third or fourth grade, they're reading to learn about just certain topics and just going in depth and how to apply just certain concepts. It can be a struggle, right? If they're already a struggling reader, or if they didn't get that extra support that they needed in first grade, second grade, etc., it's going to be much harder. And there are middle schoolers and even high schoolers who are struggling readers. I mean, 10th grade struggling reading at a elementary school level because they either just didn't get that necessary support that they needed at that early age. So I'm real passionate about reading. It ties into everything. Don't necessarily have to go to college if that's not what you desire, but being able to read, and again, the statistics, it shows, and it just goes further, right? Reading is just it's just so important.
Man, thank you for breaking that down, because wow, it's like the building block of all education, because when you said like, okay, well, when you think about the math or you think about the science, and it's like, it might not be that they don't understand math, they just might not understand the reading portion, and now they're getting confused and they're not going to be able to really identify what's going on in the problem, because they don't understand. Wow, I didn't even think about that. Reading is
Mhm.
definitely that building block of everything. Now, when reading now one thing I did want to touch on is um any tips for people who have young children? Because I remember, the 1 through 5, minds are like open. And so, one thing that I think we probably need to normalize is just making sure that the parents are like, you're just taking a hand in educating your children as well.
Yes.
This is my personal opinion, but
Mhm.
I just feel like somebody who's gone through the education system, from kindergarten through I have 2 degrees. It's like we definitely want to make sure that we're having a hand in our children's education. One thing that I vividly remember with my own mom is I had every single learning game that you could probably think of before I even started kindergarten, and really just instilling, the reading before I started school. And I think that's so important. And so, is there any
Mhm.
tips or things that parents can do when they do have young children to help them with the reading early on?
Well, one thing that I can say is that your blueprint for any child is what the parent does.
Hmm.
So kids, we learn. If you think we're not watching, if you think children aren't watching you, they're watching. They hear you, they see you, right? You might go in and check to see what they're doing, and you go off and say or do what you're doing, but they hear you and they're watching. So the actions and things that you do, they're watching that. And you essentially are their blueprint for
Mm,
life,
wow.
right? So it's like you tell, for example, oh, always say your please and thank you. Okay. Manners get you far. But in turn, whether you realize it or not, because sometimes we can do things and not realize it, you may not be mannerable.
Mm,
Okay. So although you're instilling and saying all these great things, all these things that a child should hear, etc., when you're not doing it, right? That it conflicts,
mm,
right?
yeah.
So it's important to make sure if you're saying these things, do it. So you want your child to read, right? They should be able to see you reading, right? Because then they'll read. Typically, children were going to love what you love, enjoy doing, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
they're going to have their own things that they like and their interest, right? Just make some time and show them that you're reading, right? As I was a kid, I remember my memories go as early as 2 years old. That's how far my memories go. And I was adamant about my mother reading The Cat in the Hat. The Cat in the Hat was my favorite story. My mom, she was a nurse, so she worked, the hospital. And I wait up for her because I wanted her to read the story, and it was just daily. But she read to me, though. She made it a habit of reading, and she read. Oftentimes, I saw my mom read the Bible a lot, but nonetheless, she was reading.
Right.
You see what I mean? And
Yeah.
so I wanted to read. Okay. So I remember the Scholastic books. I'd go ahead and get books. She would buy whatever the books that I wanted, and she'd allow me to read. So I think that's really important. Model the behavior, to model what you want your child to do and be consistent with that is really key.
Wow, I think that's super helpful.
Mhm.
What ages do you tutor? Is it do you have a specific range, or is it all? What do you help? Who do you help?
Okay. So right now, I do have a lot of fourth and fifth graders that I am helping read and comprehend.
Okay.
Um, for more inquiries, I will open up other grade levels. But that was really the book. I was getting a lot of fourth and fifth graders. This is when I was tutoring math and reading and writing.
Hmm.
So I took that and said, okay, well, the majority of them I'm already helping with reading.
Right.
Okay. So it'll be easy transition.
Yeah, I love it. I love that. Now, do you help with ACT and SATs, or are you just strictly niche focused on reading now?
Okay. I am strict focus on reading. Um, if if someone comes my way, they refer me my way, then I don't have any issues assisting, parents or that child with their ACT/ST when the reading comprehension aspect. But I'm definitely open to that.
Okay,
But it's
cool.
definitely reading focus, really is getting those reading skills up. Yeah. So
Absolutely.
if your child is, so if the parent does have a child that is struggling with math, like maybe it's possibility that, just kind of examining where their reading level is and what they're able to comprehend. Because I also throw in, just in terms of math examples, take a look at math problems, dissect those. Again, reading it to understand, reading to learn, and that comprehension aspect.
Hmm. Awesome. Now I do like how you touched on, it's obviously an investment.
Mhm.
And I just, when it comes to investing, this is just something heavily that I speak on, to my audience all the time about the importance of investing, not only in yourself, in your business, but your children too. And we buy them toys, we buy them clothes, them shoes, and it's like we definitely need to, anybody who has like issues with like price or things like that, it's like we got to really just reevaluate the things that we make a priority, because you're, like you said, I mean, reading is essential, and I didn't even realize how essential it wasn't until this conversation. I mean, obviously I knew it was important, but it's really the building
Right.
block to everything. And so it's like you definitely want to make
Mhm.
sure you are willing to make those investments, into your children. And so yeah, I've
Mhm.
never personally had a tutor, and like I said, I had the
Mhm.
misconception that it was like you only needed one if you weren't doing well. So I mean, I always did pretty well in school, but it is good to know that it is for maintenance purposes too. So I love that you touched on that. I love that you touched on that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. I now this is not something I don't advertise or put out there, or when I let's say when I do screenshot or show testimonials, um I have a few adult clients. I just
Okay.
want to touch on that for a moment because I wanted to share a particular story that I had. So one of the parents, this is one parent that I used to deal with or tutor. Um, she wanted me to tutor her daughter in reading. And she opened up and shared with me that she couldn't read.
Oh wow.
And I was like, oh, and to myself, I was a little taken aback by it because she worked with contracts. Like I think she was a mortgage broker, I think. And obviously you have to be able to read. And this is no joke. This is, I will never forget this story because it did touch me, but it really opened my eyes about some things. And she was breaking down, she was crying. And this is in person. We met at the library doing a consultation. And she shared with me that her husband, she shares information like with her husband to read, I guess, the contracts or read with the things that she's unable to read. And she's talking and speaking as if, she's reading and she knows what's going on, things like that. And I was just like, first of all, it blew my mind because I was like, that's serious dedication, the love, the connection, just being able to work together like that as a team.
Yeah.
And it got me a little emotional because one, she didn't even have to share that with me. I would have never known at all. I would have never known that she couldn't read.
Wow.
And she said that she wants to be an example for her daughter, but she also said that she just felt that it was just embarrassing, being that, okay, I'm an adult and I have a child, I want her to read, but I'm struggling modeling this. And of course, she had her own personal feelings about her being able to read and her where she was at her
Right.
reading level. And I was just like, I didn't know what to expect. When I meet people, you never know what to expect, right? But I definitely, I did not expect that. And that story, it sticks with me. You have a lot of adults that don't know how to read. And although some are successful without a doubt, others that struggled with reading or struggle in academia were either lost to, streets or gang life or in prison because just not being able to read, and just the level of support that either they didn't have, and their environmental factors, etc.
Yeah.
But I'm passionate about what I do because I know what it's like just trying to figure things out on your own.
Yeah.
And so with this generation coming up, they too may be figuring some things out on their own, or maybe it's the parents themselves just trying to figure it out, and I'm doing this, pay the bills, make sure they're fed, and maybe some other needs, quiet as kept, may not be being met. But I definitely relate on that level, and it's just important. So that story really, it just sticks with me, and it's always just a reminder for me just why I do what I do. So
Absolutely. That is, wow.
yeah.
That's crazy. Dang. I can't even, I honestly can't even imagine. Can you touch on, can you touch on some of maybe some like negative, um, like things that would happen, like say if like a kid didn't get tutoring, like what are some of the downfalls that, maybe experienced if, you didn't get your child help in a subject that they needed help on.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, we all want, our children to be confident,
Yeah.
have high self-esteem and things like that. And so oftentimes, children feeling just embarrassed,
Hmm.
or they say they might not like a subject, but really it might just because, well, they're embarrassed, or they might get teased on it, right? We
Hmm.
all want to be good at something. So those same children will rather focus on what they're good at, and they might bypass something. But when it comes to reading, right, you may not. And the woman that I spoke with, the woman that at the example I told you, she ended up getting lucky um in her position. However, she ended up, getting this done, right? She was lucky in her position. But oftentimes when students, they're not good in academia or in a particular subject, right, they're skipping school, they're getting involved in things that they shouldn't be involved in, because they want somewhere where they can fit in, right? They're either just welcome, not judged, where they can fit in somewhere where they know, oh, I'm good at this. And if there aren't certain supports at home, right, maybe a family that can support their child's interest in, I don't know, playing the violin or basketball or something, where they can fall on that. If not, they'll typically make their own means of, a substitution, and that may not always be a good choice.
Right.
And that's seen a lot in education systems. Typically, the ones that are just, the students that are either, disrespectful or out and about in the streets and things like that, they're ones that may not do so well in school. They may lack that guidance that
Mm.
at home. So,
Right. So it's like
mhm,
a tied in hand, cause and
absolutely.
effect type thing. Now,
Mhm,
um, any tips on, so say a child is struggling, and then we have a parent, especially in this pandemic, typically if a child was struggling, they would be, with the teacher, all day, every day. And then, the teacher might recommend to the parent, like, hey, this is an area that Timmy is like struggling in. I mean, I'm sure they probably can do the same thing, but like with the parent being more at home with their child, is there any like good questions that they can ask or things to kind of like pry to see like how their kid is doing in certain subjects, to see like, okay, like maybe they aren't doing so well, or does it just come from, the parents being more involved in the
right.
actual education? So
Mhm,
I know it's hard, but I guess it's like as a parent, you kind of have to find that balance right now as your child is more at home. So
oh yeah, definitely. So in Excel choice education, I talk to the parents to get in contact with their child's teacher, because obviously I want to see what's going on in their classroom from their perspective. And, some students, some teachers have had that child last year, et cetera, so forth. So they're a great resource for me in terms of how I approach them and how I deal with them. And so one thing I notice is that some parents will say, oh my gosh, I didn't know that he or she wasn't doing his work,
mhm.
right? And Yeah, so these parents, same parents, have to work. They're not always, they can't be over the child's shoulder 24/7 or like that. So I would say making time where there's a schedule or you put it in your calendar where you want to check in
Mhm.
with your classroom teacher. Because granted, right, the teacher is unable to follow up, on a daily with your child or with you,
Yeah.
right? Depending, some places they might say, okay, we're supposed to follow up X, Y, and Z, but things happen. They have a life too. They have families as well. So again, it's just we all have to work together, really, essentially, to get the results that we want. So definitely, I say on the parent makes this some time where you're reaching out to the student, just following up on things, or where you're making some time stepping into the Google Classroom, seeing what they've done, what needs to be completed, things of that nature. Some parents that are stay-at-home moms, I've noticed that they're a little bit more hands-on. Obviously, they're at home
Right.
with the kids. They don't have to necessarily worry about work and that nature. But for those that are working, yeah, it just takes just a little bit more effort on their part to ensure that their child is on task and if they're doing what they need to do. So typically when that happens, I might check in, going online. If I'm facilitating, and that's something that I used to do too. I used to facilitate online learning. So I would be there in the home with some parents and help their child either just stay focused or give them tips. Okay, take notes. This is what we're doing. I can see how they're learning, what they're doing, and then offer just some assistance, points, fix it, restructure, things like that. So I think that's important because at the end of the year or when the semester is over with, parents are like, wait, what? They haven't been doing any work. And I can see these reactions are genuine.
Right.
They have no idea. So that's another issue. Some students, they're not turning in their work. They're not doing their work, and they're emailing me asking about extra credits so they can move on and not be left behind. And so that's a whole nother conversation.
Right. Whole
Yeah.
nother conversation. No, I think that's super helpful because again, this is, new waters. And like I said, I can't even imagine working and having a kid that's, going through this online learning. So definitely thank you for those tips. Now, when it does come to tutoring, how often do you typically meet with your either group or your one-on-one? Is it weekly,
Mhm.
2 times a week? How is it vary? What is it like?
So with my group tutoring, I meet Monday through
Okay.
Thursday. Okay.
Okay.
We meet for about an hour and some change.
Okay.
For the few people that I do have in person, it is an hour. I say some change because I want to make sure they understand or we're wrapping up something. I don't like to rush it and,
Yeah.
oh, hour's done.
Yeah.
We're good. So the reason for the Monday through Friday repetitiveness, right? Being repetitive, intentional, right? We're getting on a schedule. It's becoming, the norm, etc. So Monday through Friday, they see me on a daily. This is what we're doing Monday through Friday, right? In conjunction, okay, with your online learning. I'm sorry, Monday through Thursday in conjunction with your online learning. So
Okay, I love that. And I think, repetition is key. I mean, that's how you learn anything. And so I think it's super important that it's kind of like working out. Like, all right, I'm gonna go to my tutor today. Like, all right, I'm gonna go work out today. And so I'm gonna go work my brain.
exactly.
So I I love that. Now, what are your takes on um the when it comes to kids in this day and age, like in the school system and college? Because I mean, I think we're the same age. I went to school, we were instilled with, go to school, get good grades, go to college,
Mhm.
like, and
Yeah.
so on and so forth. And so,
Mhm.
as an educator, what is kind of like your thoughts? Like, do you think it should be that, straight line? Should children kind of have like pursue more of their passions? Like, what's just your personal opinion on it?
Well, I'm honestly an advocate for there's more than one way to be successful. I mean, to just say, this is the path, this is it, doesn't make sense when, especially children are exposed to media and the internet.
Mhm.
They can see clear examples of people who didn't just have this one path.
Right, right, right.
So it doesn't make sense to say, this is it
Mhm.
right here. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's important that parents just cater to what their child is just naturally good at,
Right.
right? Your child is not going to have all the answers in terms of what they want to do, what they want to be, right? But what you can do is just be supportive in that aspect and cater to, we all like to know what we're good at.
Right.
Okay, we all like to know what we're great at, what we naturally just covet to, etc. So yeah, from personally, I believe that's just one of the easiest things
Mm-hmm.
about parenting. I don't have any children, by the way, I meant to say that earlier,
Yeah.
but just being around kids, just mentoring and teaching, etc., they just get so excited about something that they know how to do. You see that your child likes putting things together, okay, cater to that. He likes putting things together. Okay, that can translate into whether he's the architect, something tech wise, figuring something out. I mean, it translates into other avenues, right?
Yeah.
So you really don't know what you're raising, honestly. And so just catering to what that child is good at, he or she's going to remember. Like I said, my earliest memories are when I was 2 years old, and I remember a lot of things. I remember how mom would just cater to just certain things that I just was naturally good at. And it was just, that's what she did. So that's just really important.
Yeah, I love that. Just being present and
Mhm.
in your child's life. I don't know if have you heard of I recently, well, a couple months ago, I had got educated on these schools. I don't know where they are. I don't even know if there's any in California, but there are these schools where they cater to what your child is actually good at or has a niche for, and then they build a whole curriculum based on what they're good at. And have you do you know what I'm talking about? I don't
I do, but I just can't remember the name. Like I read a few
like
articles about. Yeah.
I want to say what's sticking in my mind I want to say it's called Freedom School or Freedom Schools, or
Uh-huh.
I'll have to look. I should have looked it up before I got on this call, but
Mhm.
I want to say it's called Freedom Schools, and I thought it was the most genius thing ever. And I feel like, I mean, I
Mhm.
don't know what our new normal is gonna be, but I do know that this current education system, in my opinion, ain't it. And so I
Mhm.
think that you're catering to what a child is actually passionate about, and then like cultivating that and having that grow. I mean, I think that that is absolutely amazing. So I don't, like I said, I'll have to Google it. Like, so if you're
Mhm.
listening and you're interested, Google it. But I just think it's an amazing concept. Like, I mean,
No,
wow.
it really is. The education system is outdated.
Yeah.
You know, you can look into a lot of fields and a lot of careers. They're evolving and changing, but education stays the same.
Right.
I mean, the system, education was created in the industrial age.
Right.
Okay, we sent kids to work.
Yeah.
Then eventually it was like, oh wait, what are parents going to do? Parents need a job. So boom, here goes the education system. Put the kids in school, parents get the jobs back.
Yeah.
It's old.
Yeah.
It's it's really old, and we really have to do away with a lot. All of it needs to be thrown away. I'm not a fan of it. I eventually I want to go overseas and just teach and get that kind of exposure and things of that nature. But
Yeah. Throw
yeah,
the whole
and
system
so
away.
because the way the school is designed, I'm sorry.
No, I was like, throw the whole system away.
Yeah. And so the way that schools are designed, right, even without saying it, just looking, it's school, okay, tests, college.
Yeah.
Right? You may have that educator that is encouraging you to go after their dreams and things of that nature, but just the way the school system itself is designed,
Hmm.
it's designed on those premises,
Yeah.
right? It's a multi-billion-dollar agency, you know
Right.
what I mean? And
Yeah.
so it's up to you as a parent to cultivate their child's skills, right? You don't have to, let's say if you yourself don't have many degrees, etc., doesn't involve that, just finding out this is what they're naturally good at. I'm going to nurture it. I'm going to do my best to nurture it. Okay. I may not know a lot about X, Y, and Z. Well, I need to go find out who's really into that, and get my child some more exposure in tech, or my child more exposure in this, etc.
I
Okay.
love I
Yeah.
love that. Now, just from a past educator and now tutor, obviously education is something that you've been involved in for very long. Just on an opinion base, like how do you think the education system should be designed? Since this old way that's still the current way is no
Mhm.
longer in my eyes effective. So how would you design it?
I like the take of where you have some institutions, they are catering to the child's interest, what they want to do. Um, I come across the students that are extremely stressed out when it comes to school.
Mm,
And I don't think I've seen so many students be stressed out behind school. Like you're 12. Like what you know what I mean? It's like,
right.
no, in all honesty, I mean, that's their life. And of course they're gonna have their ups and downs and their struggles, but the level of stress, and honestly, I just think that's coupled around with, their parents' expectations. And of course, parents are gonna have high expectations for their kids,
Right.
and then it's like expectations of themselves. But then sometimes it can turn into, I don't want to disappoint my mom, I don't want to do this, I don't want
Yeah.
to that. And oftentimes parents have the ability to want not only what's best for their child, but in a way, like when they parent, it's like, well, I wish my mom was harder on me in school.
Mhm.
So in turn, because they wished for that for themselves, well, I'm going to make sure that my child does this, make
Mm,
sure my child does that. And what I found is, and I'm saying this and just your honesty, I've had students just have conversations. I mean, any educator, and you can reflect back to when you were in elementary school or junior high, you've had conversations with your educator or brought some things to their attention, because sometimes at home, just certain things can't be discussed or talked about among the parents, because you might have a particular passion and interest in this, but mom or dad are just like, no, you focus and you're going to school and this is what it is, right?
yeah.
So in terms of an education system, I'd like to see more. I would like for it to be more AI based, really just, I mean, the future is tech. I mean, we're in the tech age now, but it's still evolving. More things are going to happen.
Yeah.
Things that we've probably never thought of or seen before is going to take place. And really, I believe it's going to impact education on a whole new level. Just preparing students for the present world, not from some old, outdated system that we're not in anymore. That's just not helpful.
Yeah.
you
I
know
agree.
so that's really how I envision a lot of just AI really taking the horns of education and taking it by storm. Really, the whole system needs to be demolished and just start from scratch. Really,
Yeah,
I mean,
literally.
whether something is birthed overseas and brought to the United States, but it just
Yeah.
really needs to focus on the child's skills, what they're good at, or just really honing into what's getting ready to happen, because automation is taking over.
Yeah.
Okay, these factory jobs, warehouse jobs, a lot of these jobs will be non-existent. Okay,
Very true.
so where does that leave you and as an adult? Where does it leave these generations that are coming up behind us? So definitely skill based, like learning certain skills,
Yeah.
and it's really helpful. I mean,
Absolutely. And I remember when they started implementing, the different tests that we had to take like in 3rd grade and,
mhm,
8th grade and 9th grade. And I'm just like, then it becomes to where like now you're not even learning anymore. Now your sole education is just so you can pass these tests. And it's like,
mhm,
all right, well, I passed the test. Like, now what? And I just feel like
mhm,
I always just think back to myself because I feel like I'm literally the perfect example. Like,
mhm,
straight A's every single grade. Like, but then, like, when it came to life skills, I'm like, what's going on? Where's the test in that? Like, they started taking out all of these these things where they deemed unnecessary, or, you know, parents should be teaching at home, and they took it out of the school and just focused on testing. But it's like, where are these tests going? Like, what do they help us with? Like, I mean, you know, the test didn't help me get into like any of these school. The test that I took into, you know, third grade and ninth grade, it didn't help me. It, like, I don't know. I'll always feel some type of way about the education system. Like you said, throw the whole thing away. Like, just start over. But yeah, I think it's important. I think it's important that we had this conversation, just because it's relevant
Mhm.
to current times. Like, there are a lot of parents, I know a lot of moms are probably going to be listening to this, like, yeah, dang, like, what are some, you know, things that I can start implementing? Like, how can I be better? Every parent wants to be a good parent. Like, you know, they want what's best for their child, and so it's just finding the resources that are going to best help them and give them that advantage. So as we wrap this up, is there anything you want to add? All of your contact is going to be, you know, at the end of this video, but is there anything else that you want to add to the parents in regards
Mhm.
to tutoring, education, any tips that you want to throw out?
Okay. Well, I do provide free consultations to parents in terms of what's going on, how your child is learning, what you can do, and absolutely get this free screening to see if you are interested in joining one of my cohorts, working with my amazing students. You can feel free to get in touch with me. I am on excelchoice_edu on Instagram, Excel Choice Education on Facebook, and my contact information will be at the end of this video. Get in touch with me. I'll be more than happy to chat with you over the phone. I love doing consultations. I love meeting the parents. You guys really are the heartbeat of your child's life. You really are the blueprint, and taking that step and reaching out and getting that extra assistance and help, if that's what you need to do, then absolutely do it.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
I love that, and, you know, I'm so glad we were, you know, able to connect again. I really appreciate you, you know, coming on here, because like I said, I think it was a definitely much needed conversation that needs to be had. So I appreciate it, and we will definitely be talking soon.
We will. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, girl. I'll talk to you later.
All
Bye.
right. Bye.